Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry, from the informative to the insane. Starring Ryan Rash.
You give people what they want, and they will turn out for you.
And Kade Hummel.
Lead by example, as youth will follow.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Kade Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, and we had visited just briefly. Neither of us have much for current events, but I do have not world events. I guess I had a busy week, so I had zero time to watch what's happening in the world or watch the news. So I don't have a lot of that, but I did have Chase's graduation this past weekend. We've just started our springborn goat sales every Tuesday for eternity, it seems like, or at least through June. So it's my time is becoming more and more limited, particularly this time of year. So I'm gonna have to rely on you 100% on what's going on in the world.
Because I have nothing to do in the summer months.
Yes, you can listen to podcasts on the plane. First class, don't you get TV in first class?
I do not listen to podcasts. I don't listen to ours, much less anybody else's. Ugh.
You want to know something really positive? I do have something incredibly positive today.
Oh God.
My new dog Chase and I picked up at the exotic animal
sale
in
It's
Missouri.
a dingo.
My
Not
new
a dog.
dog is laying here under my desk. He is turning out to be the perfect dog. Perfect.
Not a dog. It's a wild
Yeah, he is a dog. Dog.
So I have a few current events, and Dale is the reason Dale doesn't have any current events is because he's just giddy with anticipation that his boyfriend Ron DeSantis is announcing that he's running for president this week, and he doesn't have to do anything else. That's all. Dale's life is.
I was not even aware that it was this week, but I was aware that Tim Scott is announcing today, I believe, and today being Tuesday.
That was last week, dude.
Monday. No, Tim Scott is officially having some rally today and announcing.
Well, he filed his papers last week. So.
Got it. Yeah, I think his formal announcement is today. At least
DeSantis is supposedly on Thursday.
Where is his at?
I don't
Iowa or Florida or who knows?
Probably at a drag show, knowing him. But anyway,
I'm okay with no drag shows. I'm okay with kids, 5-year-olds not watching.
I am too, but I do. The whole thing is I don't dislike DeSantis. I'm more Trump. But anyway, your theory on his general election electability, it's starting to get a little shaky for me because yesterday the NAACP put out an advisory not to travel to Florida.
When the
NAACP,
when they are against you, they go through such crazy shit. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon with them. I'm out. I look at that as a positive when those crazy bastards come against you. And I'm not trying to be racist. I don't care who they're standing up for. And sometimes they're just crazy. And I'm going to leave it at that. Tim Scott, on the other hand, I don't think he's going to win the primary, but I would be great with him going into a general election as well.
See, I don't think he's any more electable than the other two, just to be real honest with you. But I mean, I like him. I like him more than DeSantis. But
yeah, I think he's got a lot of good. I don't know that he's got it. I don't even know if enough people know who he is or his name recognition to even give him a chance. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if his numbers move some. His numbers are not good right now, I assume.
And then the other thing on all this nonsense is so the report came out last week that cleared Trump of the whole Russian thing. It was all like they said the FBI basically was dumb and impartial and all the things biased against Trump, whatever. So I don't know why they think this is going to work, but so the mainstream media, they're all after Nancy Pelosi if she's going to walk back any of her statements and all this other stuff that she made about the Russian investigation and Trump and all this other. And of course, she's not. I'm like, y'all going after her on this. Of all the things that we could go against Nancy for, this is what y'all think she's going to do. People are nuts. I mean, whatever.
I'm good with him going after Nancy for it. I don't care what it is. Anything. I'm good.
And then your other boyfriend, Fetterman, who has been released from the wacky mental institution and is back at work.
He was not in. He checked. It wasn't the mental institution, was it?
Yes,
Just the hospital, I thought.
it was a mental hospital.
He should have stayed there. If they had him there for a while, they should have locked the doors and kept him there.
Anyway, so he's back.
I don't like him. I do not like the man. I don't even not respect his intelligence. I don't like the example he set. There's nothing. Zero.
Anyway, he's back. And so he's been showing up to work and he's wearing a hoodie and gym shorts and all this stuff to the Senate, which is not being looked upon on real favorably. And his office, his press secretary or whatever, says that is how you know that his mental health recovery is so robust, because he is back in his signature look.
I heard a news clip with him trying to defend something in the Senate. It was worse than Joe.
Oh,
that's saying something. I mean, he was. I don't know what. It didn't make any sense at all. Zero.
Yeah,
it was bad, really bad. And yet I just better stop. Kneecaps coming to mind.
Kneecaps, but anyways, again, that's I don't have anything because I have not watched anything, and so that literally this is going to be the shortest current events in the history of the damn world.
I've got two things that won't take long. I just thought of as we're talking. We've already covered the Bud Light thing, but what's encouraging, it just wasn't a blip a few weeks that nobody's buying it and they're all coming back to it. I think this may be forever. And I approve of it. I'm good with it. I think the corporate world has to open their eyes that most of America is fed up with the woke bullshit. That's simple. I don't know how they could not see that, especially after this example. Are you in your travels, or have you ordered a Bud Light just to see if you get attacked?
I don't drink beer.
I would love for you. Where are you going to be tonight?
Why do you want you look? I have enough problems. I do not need to start one.
I think you get it, whatever bar you're going to be at tonight, hotel bar, whatever it may be, wherever you're traveling, and order a Bud Light and just leave it sit there in front of you all night just to see if you get comments.
You just want me to die.
No, it's for research. It's for the betterment of the podcast.
I do not drink beer, so good luck with that. But you say that, but Ford has a redefining tough campaign with the rainbow truck.
You see, I have not seen that yet, so I would think that would be a little unpopular with some of the truck drivers, but I have not. I don't know if it was for some reason. There's not as much.
Believe me, I just text messaged it to you.
I am not a fan of your rainbows. Nope, I'm out. I am out on your rainbows. No, I'm out. No rainbows.
I'm just telling you. So it's not just Bud Light, and it's fixing to be Pride Month, so this will get real stupid.
So do white straight male? Do I get a silver lining cloud or some sticker I can put on my car? What do I get?
You and your white privilege get nothing.
Got it. Well, I want to make one more plea before we go on. We've got a guest today, but my final plea is everyone out there, do anything possible, whether it's contact your state representative, whatever you can do, because right now we're finally getting some of the states to wake up that China's buying a bunch of our farm ground. Obviously, they own a large portion of our processing plants, but we have one advantage over China, and just one at this point because we've pissed all the others away. They have to rely on us and other countries to feed their masses. If they continue to buy the farmland, if they continue to own the food processors, we no longer have that. And why on earth would we want any foreign ownership of farm ground? And I shouldn't say any, I guess I'm okay. Ownership of farm ground from adversaries. And if you don't think China's an adversary, we have problems. I know Ryan's president, Joe, just called it some silly balloon the other day, I believe is what he referred to it as. No big deal, silly balloon. But we have to wake up. Some people are waking up. The more we talk about it, the more you can voice that this is a terrible idea for China to own farm ground. hopefully it resonates and our elected officials will do something within each state, because Joe's not going to do anything on a federal level. So please speak to it with your neighbors, talk about it at the coffee shop. If you know any of your representatives, please reach out. China does not need to own any farm ground, let alone any more farm ground. Ryan, are you selling anything there in Crockett, China?
No.
Good. Daddy James knows better, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're selling anything anytime soon.
Okay, well that is all I have for current events. That's all my rant.
Okay.
I bet you
This is going to be the best BTRJLA top 10 ever, because I'm going to get all of these names right. It's going to be a miracle, but it's going to happen. And I am going to do the top 10 Junior Lamb. And in first place from Thorndale, Texas, currently is Alfred McDaniel. Second and third are the Zerbach kids. Addison Zerbach is second. Macy Zerbach is third, and they're from Oregon. Briscoe Black from Texas is fourth. Paisley Carlson, last year's all-around champion from California, is fifth. Addison Irwin from Texas is sixth. Taya Winden from Hudson, Colorado is seventh. Cinch Ward from California is eighth. Kaysen Wooten from Texas is ninth. And Claire Bland from Texas is 10th currently. And so look at that. That was easy. Best top 10 ever.
On those.
I mean, whipped right through those things. Anyway, and I want to thank the South Texas Show Series for becoming not only a corporate sponsor, but also for sponsoring all 4 species for the state of Texas in 2023. South Texas Show Series sponsored us in 2022, but they are back in 2023. And that now that they have sponsored the entire state of Texas, all 4 species will have a full awards program in all the age divisions. South Texas Show Series is in Kingsville, Texas, and hosts 3 all-species shows each year with 4 rings for each species. And the events this year are going to be held on September 16th through 17th, November 4th and 5th, and December 16th and 17th in Kingsville in 2023. This show series is one of the premier livestock show events in the state of Texas. Began in 2007, and for the last 16 years has shown a dedication to the livestock show kids of Texas that few can equal, much less surpass. Thank you, Tracy Beadle and the South Texas Show Series, for your support of the Beyond the Ring Junior Livestock Association.
That is great that all the state species are sponsored. That was very, very
for Texas.
For Texas. Now, you know what I think you should do in turn is donate your time to go judge those shows free of charge.
I did last year.
Well, you can do it again. Another species. Just keep doing it.
I did all the species last year.
Oh, then they don't need you back. Nope, cancel that. Cancel. Well, I appreciate the sponsorship from ShowFresh H2O, as it allows us to put this podcast out each and every week. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give ShowFresh H2O a try. This can be purchased at your local supply store, local supply trailer, and online at swampfox.com. Today, we have the first, Ryan, of a 4-part series that will cover the trends in the show stock industry, from body type to pulling leg hair on pigs, anything and everything in between. With that, we're starting with swine, and somehow we talked my nephew, Kade Hummel, to come on for a second time. And usually after one time, Ryan pretty much runs most of them off. Yes.
The best Hummel is Kade.
Kade is going to come on, and we're going to discuss swine show trends. Kade is currently with United Animal Health as a account manager with the Lidner Feed side of things. And Kade, we absolutely appreciate you jumping in and joining us today. I know we had Kade on a while back. I don't remember what the title of that was, Ryan. Pig Handling 101?
No, it made the top 10, and I didn't remember the title. And then you told me it was Kade's episode. I was like, oh, well, no wonder Kade was on it, because it was good. All we did was beat up on you the whole time. No wonder it was.
Yes, it was very popular. Very, very popular.
Back to the
roots.
We
can go on for hours if we need to do that, Ryan.
I know. That's a whole nother podcast.
Well, back to Kade's introduction. He's Kade, and I don't know what he's judged nearly every national level hog show, and a couple of them twice, but he's covered the basis. I think most recently would have been just here at Arizona. I got to watch Kade for a little while, but Kade, we appreciate you coming on for a second time, as a guest on Beyond the Ring. And with that, this is gonna be a very informal kind of Ryan and I question and answer, and just get as much input or pull as much information out of you as we can, Kade.
Yeah, great. Sounds fun.
Where do we begin, Ryan? Go ahead.
I think this will be probably a small part of the bigger conversation, but in turn, just for listeners out there, because I know that you and Dale have talked a lot about our listening audience, but it goes from the way experience to the beginner. But for those that out there that may be just beginning, can you just give us a brief synopsis of what you think the current trend in market and breeding hog selection is right now? Like, what are the high points of?
So, it still goes back to quality livestock, and that means balance is always going to be popular. Balance is always going to be something that is high on the priority list, but not as often talked about. But they have to check the box of being a well-balanced animal first and foremost, and then we add the ESTs. And right now, you I call it, the best way to term it is your body mass has to fit your body type. So to be a real little pig, you better not be really fat and squatty, right?
Yep.
That just contradicts what we're going for. So your body volume needs to match that size proportion, and that equals into balance. Once you get that done, then they're going to throw as much bone and much look into it as they possibly can with all the muscle. The two things that won't go out of style are muscle and bone, but balance in my mind is the first thing that they check.
And why do you think muscle and bone stays there? To me, that's a much more black and white, easier to evaluate versus some people's definition of balance or soundness or all. To me, it's unfortunate that the more difficult things to evaluate sometimes get overlooked.
100%. And the reason why muscle and bone will always be very high on the priority list is everybody can see it. There's not as much gray area, right? It's either a heavy muscled pig or it's not, or it's a heavy boned pig or it's not. There's such a dividing definition of soundness. What do we call sound? I call this one sound. Dale may not call this one sound. It's a term that we can argue for hours, but muscle and bone are not. Even though there's very little bone circumference difference when we take these animals to the rail and we've actually measured the bone density and the circumference of it. It's almost unmeasurably difference between what we call a heavy boned pig and a light boned pig, but its perception in the show ring that we could see it is something that everybody can see, everybody can identify, and then that doesn't put your judge in a firing squad because they use something that they can't identify with.
And I think that you just so eloquently summed up so much that I think I tried to put in last week's podcast about, all trying to be accurate, doing all these things so people won't jump your ass after show and tell you you're an idiot. But
Yes.
What you just said, muscle and bone, everybody can identify those things. That is why the masses go towards that, because it is easily identifiable, easily recognized by everybody, whether you're in the ring or outside the ring. That's the heaviest muscled one out there. I can use that one and no one can get on me because that's what I'm doing. And
Nobody can argue that pig's not heavy muscle.
And that right there, what you said, is why that will never go out of style. And again, when I judge, muscle is a priority for sure. Maybe not the greatest priority, but huge one. But the reason that muscle is such a priority, for way higher priority than to the masses, is just what you said. You can see it. Everybody around the ring can see which one's the heaviest muscled, which one's the biggest legged.
Yep. And that's so easily defended by, and this is, Ryan, you may agree with this, but my biggest butt chewings that I have ever had have either came at county fairs or jackpot shows. And the majority of those times I am getting cornered by grandma and mom who may not have the experience of evaluating livestock, but they still have their valued opinion of their loved one because I said their pig wasn't sound enough for me, and I will get yelled at, but mine's heavier muscled, and mine's heavier boned, and mine's heavier muscled, and mine's heavier boned. They cannot identify the other traits that I prioritized over their muscle and bone. And that's where I get the biggest chewings.
Oh yeah, the majority of mine have come from a county fair, and it's always a great. Every confrontation that I've ever had, and there haven't been a lot, thank God, has always been a grandparent every single time. And right, and it's just like you said, they're way more into they wanted little Johnny to win and thinks he should win regardless than anything else. But you're right, because maybe theirs was super stout and heavy muscled. He also was probably crippled as hell.
Yes.
But I mean, but they can't see that, and they don't. But that right there, and again, I loved last week's episode so much. I think that we could do like a 50-part series on that because I left out a lot. But I wanted to say just what you said, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, that muscle and big legs and those things, they're never going to go out of style regardless species. I think it's bigger in hogs right now than probably anything else. But because just what you said, everybody can see it. Everybody knows, yeah, well, he's not lying or she's not lying. That one is the stoutest.
No, I think you're dead on there. And I want to bring in one thing, and it's Ryan's favorite every time. And I don't know for sure where Cade's going to be. So we're talking about bone and muscle. Cade has already stated that if we do a carcass evaluation and measure the circumference of bone, it's very minimal, and it's across species, not just in hogs. So the hide and the hair oftentimes have a lot to do with that perception of how big bone there are. There are differences. I'm not arguing that, but it is sometimes more of a perceived difference than an actual measurable difference when they're on the rail. And the other side of it, we talk about muscle, and I agree exactly with what both of you are saying. These are definable qualities that very few people are going to argue one way or the other because it's right there, and you should be able to see the differences. Even though we talk about more muscle, if we were to ever, and it may never happen again, relate the market hog show ring back to the real world, back to production side, back to what a consumer prefers, I would venture to guess that the heavier muscled pigs in the show ring are far beyond where the consumer preference is.
I would say your average muscled pigs in the show ring are farther along than your commercial hog.
Yes. I mean, if we put that monster loin eye out there, the consumer doesn't know what to think of it.
Now be careful, Dale. When I spoke my mind on this at Phoenix on the judging contest, they put a TikTok video of me, and boy, did I get blown up.
I forgot about that one. That was good.
I didn't know this. Who did this to you?
I would like you to maybe maybe that TikTok didn't reach enough. You could give it again today if you'd like.
No, I don't want to go through the text message.
Well, Ryan knows nothing about it. Ryan, how could I not have told you this?
You did not, you jerk.
Well, I kind of forgot about it.
Somebody got on Cade's shit and you didn't tell me?
And it was Cade was relating it to the commercial world?
Yes. Or they're of telling us that we do not have any relative relevance in the commercial world. That all these kids, Ryan, kept coming in and telling me,
you're going to get the text. You're going to go down that road.
Well, yeah, you're right. But they kept coming in and telling me how much money they're going to make on a fat-free lean index. And this producer is going to stay in business raising pot loads like this, or this barrel is going to wipe a producer out because it won't cut. And the reality of it is all those barrows in a show are well within the range of a premium, likely. The vast majority, and especially in that class. But they just kept telling me how much money there is, and I finally got tired of it, and I got up there and said, look, most of these show hogs don't end up in the commercial food chain. They end up in our meat lockers, and they go to family members and sell on Craigslist. They don't get sold by the masses, and there sure in the heck is not a value-based added system for a show pig. It is, here's my show pig. Please give me my $12 so I can go home now. Mm-hmm. There is no market for profitability in these things when they're done. And,
Oh.
and I'm just paraphrasing it, but man, I went off on them, and that thing had like 60,000 or 90,000 views within a week. And whew,
Ryan, you're very disappointed you missed out on that.
I am proud to know him because, like,
God.
no,
I got
like,
him.
because, like, the whole thing, like, this is what I have not yet had that meltdown moment at a judging contest. I've been very, very close, and thank God Skaggs was there both times to rein me back in or whatever before I went up there. But like, just what you say, they come in here and they say all this stuff, and it literally makes zero sense. And you just
None.
want to take them and shake them and be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no, and I have no issue. And this is what this people take this wrong. I still like a good quality meat quality animal. I still like the carcass values, but don't tell me that that's the reason why we're doing this, because it's not.
Yeah, no. I
And
mean,
my
no.
judging coach has always told me to use things that you prioritize in placing the animals, not some fictitious bull crap that you were just taught to put in a box because it's the third pair or last pair or whatever.
No, I'm with you. I'll have to research this, but that's another podcast topic altogether. And then, so we're getting back to the trend on hogs here. So we talked about body type and all that and what think is. So, and again, like I stated, that I think there are more trends going in the swine deal right now than probably all the other species combined.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that we'll agree on all of them or everybody's going to like them or whatever, but I think the majority of them are in hair growth and fitting. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. That the shag is, as we call it, or they call it, because we is not me, but the shag is something that is very popular. In my stance on that, hair is a sign of age, is a sign of a poor doing animal. Like especially in the pigs, if you get one that's sick and chronic, man, that thing's a fuzzball. It's always hairy, it's coarse haired, and now we're trying to achieve that. And so, as a judge mentally, I always, when I see that hairy pig, I wonder to myself, okay, A, how damn old is this pig? And B, has this thing been sick 2/3 of its life to be that hairy?
Right.
Like that's the first two things to go. Now I never say it, but that's the first two things that come through my head.
Right.
So what I tell the families that I'm involved with that have to pull your leg hair and glue them and do this, if you're gonna do what the cattle guys do, then do it. Then clip the back of that leg so it doesn't look like a chicken spike coming off of his elbow.
Yep.
So it doesn't look like the messy haired kid in the third grade with hair just going everywhere. If you're going to do it, still make it a show ring animal.
Yeah.
Still put your effort into it and make your skin and your hair shiny and put the time into brushing it and working it. Not just, I woke up today, we're going to show this pig, its hair's going everywhere, but man, is it hairy. I hate that.
So, Kade, where do we draw that line then? And I'm going to go old school, and I get where they're at, and I appreciate a perfectly well fit hog, which there are very few of them. Most of them are fit horrendously, kind of like what you're alluding to. And it will evolve, and they will get better at it, and that's all good. But where I guess I had the same thing hit my mind. I want that hair coat to be well groomed. I want it to give me at least the impression of younger and youthful, and that isn't even on the radar anymore. Is that accurate?
And then-
So youthfulness is actually, Dale, when in the late 90s, we used to talk about pigs being more indented at their ham-loin junction and calling it a identification of leanness and muscle equality. And now we hate it so bad that they can't pinch there. It's a bad deal and this and that. And that's
even though the muscles in the ham are naturally going to be bigger than that loin muscle.
Right.
And the only way to fix that is pile a bunch of fat and hair on it.
Right. But that's okay. Right. That's an eyesore if there's a indention there, which it cracks me up. But we had our Poland barrow beat yesterday because of that, and I just anyway. But
Go ahead, go off for a little while. It's okay.
Nope. We're not. We're going to leave it alone. But so the youthfulness, and this gets back to the trends, is gone. We are showing pigs purposely 3 to 5 months older than where we used to be. You know, Dale, when we showed Illinois for all those years, we technically had to be a February 1st born animal.
Correct. And some people would
And we would
stretch it
get
to
to state,
mid-January.
right, but we would get there.
Yes.
Now you'll see, I can promise you there'll be more Decembers there than Januaries, and there'll be more Novembers there than Februaries.
Agreed.
Because
and I get it. It
yep.
Age
I'm not saying it's wrong.
No,
I'm not saying it's right.
maturity is giving us your muscle, your bone, all of those things that we are clearly defined that aren't in the gray area. A lot of that comes from maturity. And that just makes it, that's the easy way to get there.
That is the easiest way. And that's what kind of makes me giggle. You know, Ryan, I don't know, when you guys were, going on those cattle hard, but when like we were going on our pigs hard back in the day, we didn't have jackpot shows. We had to go to the county fair circuit. They all had open shows, and that was our jackpot shows. You can make money at them, and they you'd win $150 to win your class, and in second place you'd be $130. So that's how we did it. But our pigs were so exercised. We worked them so hard outside of the barn. And now I don't think these pigs get outside of their barn for more than 5 minutes prior to getting to a show ring. They have no exercise programs. 95% of it's all done with a bucket to manipulate what we can do. And I just think that gets me all back into the hair thing. When I see a good skin and hair, Dale, that tells me that I'm seeing a family that works their tail off in the barn, that there's a lot of washing, a lot of scrubbing, a lot of brushing. And I appreciate the living heck out of that versus this shaggy pig that I can't tell if it's piss stained or if they think it's cool to have that yellow hair on the side of the belly and this elbow hair that comes out like a chicken that's getting into a fight. And it just bugs me. I'm like, okay, are you lazy or is this the look you're going for?
Right.
But just to clarify, that direction, it does appear to be the trend. We just need to do it better.
Ryan needs to, as he judges all these pig shows, needs to compliment the people that actually fit the long hair.
Yeah. No,
and make it look presentable. And so what I'll actually do is I go a step farther when I see one that's done the way I like it. I will highlight them as they come across the ring. And I'll say, hey, if you guys want to study what one skin and hair should look like, please study this pig. Watch how that hair is trained, and she can brush it however they want to, but it lays in that pattern. See how that is uniformly clipped on the backside of their leg, and it just makes it look like they care about their damn animal.
But it's funny that, and I'm going to talk about what you just said. Funny that you mentioned that, but then I'm going to ask another question that I didn't get to earlier. So you're talking about the ones that do it well and do it all right and how you like to say it. And I think we're pretty much spot on that. And again, I think it just like you said, I think it is insane that the masses now just know that their pig needs to be hairy. And so it does look like somebody that just woke up, rolled out of bed and strolled into the ring because it's going everywhere. And I mean, it's stupid looking, but just like you said, hairy. But there are those ones that have them super hairy, but it's just like in the cattle, just like in the sheep, just like in the goat. They may even pull some of the legs, all this other stuff, but they clip it down, they block it out, they do all these things. So it does not look like a hot ass mess express. It does look like it's been clipped and fitted and well and all those things. And those are the ones that I'm like, you know what? Because I make fun. I mean, I've made fun. I'm like some of them when this first trend first started. Like y'all must have thought y'all were coming to judge to a steer guy and decided to get yours real hairy. And like people would laugh when this first started happening. Now I mean, that was years ago, but now it's that way. But no, I think you're exactly right, and not just me because I judge a lot of them, but all of us that do judge, we've got to point out the ones that are right and proper, so everybody else can see that because they don't know.
No.
And unless we say, "Hey, this one here is dialed in right here. You want to see how one needs to be fit and presented in the ring? This is it." And we all need to do that. But you talk about the skin and the hair and the work at home. So this is the funny story, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of hell for this. But anyway, about 2 months ago, young person, I'm not going to say who, whatever, they text me and they said, "Hey, I've got to judge pigs, and I don't know a lot about it. Can you help me out?" And my first response was, "Why the hell did you say yes if you don't know anything about judging?" But I mean, and then they give me some cock and bull story, whatever. But I like this person. I'm like, all right, look, best thing that I can tell you to do, thing that you can see, identify, and will separate is the quality of the skin and hair. If the skin and hair is good, you know they busted their ass at home, and it means something. They're like, "Oh, I can do that." I was like,
I tell people, Ryan, if you have a bad pig with good skin and hair, you will move 3 places up because of it.
I think it's just like you were talking about earlier, muscle and bone everybody can see and everybody can identify. I don't know if the masses and the crowds are, but by and large, the majority of the judges, even if they're young and green and not whatever, they know what good skin and hair is, and that is exactly right. Even a bad pig is going to get pinned, be up 2 or 3 spots because they know, hey, somebody's been working on this thing, so somebody's got to like it. Maybe I'm missing something, even if it's a bad one.
Yep. And that's been since since I was a kid. You would always gain more places if your pig's skin and hair was presented. And what it taught me is, because there was only one way to get that, right? Elbow grease and water. And so when I see it as a judge, I'm like, man, that family understands it. Somebody is telling them how important that is and how cheap that is at the Dollar General to get a bottle of White Rain conditioner and shampoo and go through it. And it's simple, it's easy, but it helps you out more than you ever know.
So the question that I had that I probably should have asked before we got on that, why do you think, or what triggered this trend on getting the hogs hairy? Does anybody have an explanation?
Yeah, I do.
For that?
I do.
Okay.
I can almost, and I won't name his name, but I can tell you where it started. And it was not started for the reasons we're at now. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when it was started on a set of these jackpot hogs that were going out every weekend. And, they kind of had to be harder topped, for a jackpot show. And unless you're like Ryan, you probably see it a little bit. Jackpot shows in typical are those baby pigs that are winning are a little bit harder muscled than the pigs that are at the end of the fair or at the end of the summer. I mean, they're just kind of little ripped up things and they're cute and fuzzy there, but they still have to have them ripped. So the string of jackpot hogs had to have this monster back, and they did. And, and then they were clipping out the backs, but they were flat sided. They didn't have enough body, enough rib to get to the end point. So that main fitter in that camp was not letting anybody clip below the loin edge. So it was, they'd clip out the top and they'd clip the necks and the lower bellies, but they'd leave that mid body to make it look like there was some fill there, some more body, because that's how they were ripping that back up, is by obviously skinning it up, throwing that protein at them. and popping those loin edges, but they were too skinny, too flat. So they started leaving that hair to try to make it blend in better, and that gravitated down towards the leg. Well, we can make them heavier bone by pulling hair. We can make them do this, we can make them look this, we can make them do that. Um, and it's no different than the clipping, right? Like Dale, I'll take 3 podcasts to beat up on him, but this part I'll tell you, when Dale taught us how to clip, it was out of necessity because our pigs were older and hairier, and at that time the older generational judges would hammer you if you had an old pig, but they would scold you alive if they thought you clipped your pig. So Dale taught us how to clip without looking at it. And I still clip that way to this day. But if they found out you clipped, you were dead man walking, and it was taboo. It was terrible. You couldn't do it. Now people clip whether they need to or not because it's what everybody does. So I got to clip because they clipped, and they go at it with a weed eater, and those things look terrible.
Right.
I think it goes back to the same thing. No matter what we do, and Ryan and I have talked about this on here, whether we're feeding a supplement, whether we're clipping something a little bit different or fitting a little bit different, just like clipping the pigs. And you're right, Kate. Everybody's doing it to a certain degree, and we are leaving them shaggier, and it's changing. But clip with a purpose. Make sure that you're doing it to accentuate something or hide something. Don't just clip. And I used to think when everybody just take a guard and go over the whole pig, well, we really didn't change a lot. Let's take it shorter in areas. Let's leave it longer in areas. Yes. I don't, or slick shear the damn. It's crazy. Do everything we do. And if we could get people in our industry to stop and think about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and it actually serves a purpose, rather than we saw somebody feed that, we saw somebody drench that, or we saw somebody clip that and just do it, I think you would gain the average look in the show ring would come up immensely.
So the feed clinics, Dale, and the show camps that I put on, I will tell them to clip with a purpose and to show with a purpose. I said every animal is different. Every animal is unique. Lexi has 3 whips in our show box, and she will show with a different whip per different pig the way they respond to that whip. One whip does not respond. We have a Yorkshire gilt that is so skin sensitive that she will turn red. We have a very soft whip for her. And you don't show every pig the same. You don't clip every pig the same, and you sure in the heck don't feed every pig the same. But that's not the masses. The masses think, okay, we're 21 days out, it's paling time. We're 2 days out, it's get the sheep heads out and slick them time. And it's sad, but it is.
No, I get that. I'm gonna go back before we get too far into the others. There's a couple things in the hogs that have always intrigued me, and I tend to study structure way too much, and I bring Mother Nature's way. I do. People, Ryan would call it crazy. Everybody would call it crazy, and I accept that. But anytime that I see something, for example, a soft pastern hog, some of the times I assume that's compensating for too straight of a knee, that they've got to flex somewhere to be able to move. And I see a lot of that. I can remember just a few years ago when we took hogs so wide up front that they were completely what we call outside of themselves in terms of their skeleton. And it's almost a skeletal defect. Are these things, are we getting smarter in understanding what is correct and what isn't? And are these things, will we come back to hogs that are completely outside themselves sometimes? Will we allow those straight knees to compensate just in their pastern?
I tell all the time he does not need to judge hog shows because he will get very, very angry. He will get very, very angry.
Those club-footed ones, remember? I think I termed that a couple, just terrible up on their front feet. I can't do it. I just can't.
So now I will tell you, I don't think that the flat pastern is strictly because of straight knee they're compensating. I don't. I think there is some pigs that are genetically longer pasterned.
Agreed completely.
and that will get weaker as the weight comes on. And I do think that's just a part of pig, because soft pasturing pig, if it's raised like in a dirt situation, will never have an issue. A soft pasturing pig that's on concrete is a dead hog. I mean, those dew claws start rubbing and they cannot function. I mean, but so the way that they're compensating for that, and Dale, you see less bow-legged hogs now, but I'll tell you that there is more bow-legged hogs being made now than ever. We just know how to combat it, to manage it, to get it to where we need to get it than we ever have before. But I will tell you, more people start out with bow-legged hogs than you can ever imagine. And if you can manage
the job of managing it.
yes. But that comes back to the very first thing we talked about, age and maturity. You can do anything you want if you have enough time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You just bringing up that age and maturity point. You talking about just like y'all were talking about clipping for a purpose. I wanted to bring this in there or whatever, because like you've mentioned and I mentioned whatever, that when we judge these shows, that I you know me, you've seen me. I like to play with the crowd, like to be entertaining and stuff like that. And so we're talking about this age of maturity. Well, you'll see these come in and they are like not surgical, but they are tight as they can be on their snouts, their jowls, their heads, all this stuff. And that is because they're trying to get them as fresh looking as they can be that way, because they're old. And it's not their fault that they're old. That's just part of it. And so, I mean, when I see that every once in a while, I'll be like, they're trying to fool me here. They've got him taken down as tight as he can up there on his head, make me know that think maybe he's not quite as old, or maybe he's a little bit past prime or whatever. I see that. I know that in there, but I appreciate the effort and stuff like that. And again, it is things like that. Those people had a purpose in doing that. They knew what they were doing.
And I appreciate the fact that they do it.
I do too. It's not going to fool me, but I appreciate the fact that, hey, they knew what they needed to do to give it, the best shot, whatever. And again, like I said, I'm not making fun of them. Say, hey, good job at this. I still know what's up. But
so I'll actually bring it up.
Yeah, I do too on the mic.
A showman that has a pig that, that they're hiding something from me, purposely hiding it, but doing it in a very professional manner, like not hiding the butt where you just completely stand and block the shot. Like if you block a shot from me, like, and I say, hey, I need to see that rear shot, and you don't do it, that's what I call an insta pin. Like, great, you're fit. Like I'm not playing this game with you. If I ask you to see something, you should show it to me.
Right.
But it's your job to show the best attributes of that animal to me. But like what you said with that old head, I will call it out on the microphone. I'll say, these guys might have a barrow that's closer to 1 o'clock than 12 o'clock. They have done absolute everything in their power to get it as good as they can, and I'll commend you for that. Today, we're just closer to 1 than we are 12.
Yeah, exactly.
I will make sure that they know that they did a good job, but I found it. I beat you. Tip my hat.
Right. And just like you're saying on showmanship, I agree with you too. The kid that knows,
yes,
whether they've been told or they know themselves what the good parts of their hog and what the bad parts are. And that's why I think hog showmanship is not only the most difficult, but also the most masterful. Because unlike the other animals, you get to walk in a circle and then you stop. Yes, we can hide some things here and there, but you really can, if you are a masterful showman, show the best attributes of your pig at all times. Now, I'm with you, like, because a lot of them don't, and I think a lot of them is like, they know that I'm pretty strict on structure, so they're like, hey, don't drive at him. Don't drive directly at him. Yep. Now, if I ask you to bring that thing to me and you don't,
game over.
Then we've got a problem. But if you are just been told that or know that, and naturally, then I'm like, this kid's got it going on. Like,
amen.
Right here. I mean, yeah.
I want you on my show team.
Yeah, exactly. Like, somebody or this kid here, they've got
Mhm.
it together. And you know, and again, getting off topic, but I do want to say this because we're talking about showmanship just a little bit. Uh, I think the funniest thing, and it's still to this day, every hog show I judge, I don't care what level it's at, there's going to be somebody on the sideline saying, drive at him, drive at him.
Oh,
And I mean, the absolute worst thing you can do under me and most judges is drive right up because I cannot see a damn thing at my feet.
oh.
What you need to do is find the hole, get away,
Get away
from the
from the
rest
ball
of them.
stick.
Exactly. Get out of the center, all that. But it's still to this day, multiple drive at it, drive. I'm like, and I say it every time in showmanship, like, y'all are actually screaming the stupidest thing there is.
The opposite.
I mean, literally. And
So
then they just look at you like you're nuts.
I can't tell you how many times I have stopped a show, or I shouldn't say stopped a show, but I will stop like in the middle of a class and go get on the microphone, and I will tell the parents straight up, and this is the honest truth, and I say it in all my show camps. Parents, if you haven't told your kid what they need to know when they go into the ring, that's your fault. Don't take this time away from them that they're out there in the ring, because the only thing you're going to do is confuse them.
Oh yeah.
I don't care if you need to get up to the ring and tell them something. Don't sit there and scream, get their head up, because that's the only damn thing you know to tell them.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
I'm
sure they love it too. I'm sure the parents love it when you stop and talk about that kid.
You want to talk about a bunch of people that sit down and are afraid to speak? That's what happens. And I love it. And the kids all smile.
Yeah. And again, and not so the thing, and it bothers me more in showmanship than anything else when they're yelling at their kid, telling them what to do. And I'm right. And I will either look at that kid and be like, you, and I mean, I've got on the mic too, but more times I'm like, hey, you just do what you need to do and don't worry about any of these other people out here. But I have many times got on the mic and be like, if you didn't tell them before they got in here, now is not the time because it's not going to work out.
You're not helping them.
Yeah.
Right now is not helping.
Not going to work out now.
While we're on the showmanship, real quick, I want to throw it out there, and I'm going to leave it alone because I get too critical. And maybe Kate won't even know what we're talking about. But I think Ryan and I have brought it up before. Is the showman bounce a trend?
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
In particular with girls.
Why?
Oh,
what's going on here? What am I missing?
I cannot handle it.
And so when I tell somebody like, man, I don't like the hop, the little bounce, they're like, why? And I will flat tell them it is distracting. Like it if I'm trying to look at your pig and you are bouncing up and down behind it, and no different than when that kid can't get their hand off their pig, my eye will gravitate towards that hand, and just that movement in the background, I keep gravitating for it, and it drives me crazy.
Oh, it's the absolute worst. And this is a recent trend, and I don't think it's a trend. I think it's detriment. I think it's awful. I think it's whoever, whatever it did. To me, it makes me, when this first started, I think it's like they've got earbuds in and they're jamming to some damn music, exercising their pig at home. And I'm like, why would you think this is a good idea? Or what? I'm like, oh, it's awful. It's awful. And then the other thing, and I mean, I don't mind it as much at first. Like the other trend is the 2-whip deal. I don't know. Like I get that there are some that you absolutely got to.
No, you don't.
See, I don't think so either. But like,
that's what home is for.
I mean, I don't like it in showmanship. I don't like it in the ring, but I really hate it in showmanship. Like
I don't tolerate it in showmanship.
Well, there you go. See, Kate and why, Kate? We're gonna get rid of Dale, and you and I are gonna do.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Well,
to me, that is a part of, especially like at a jackpot show. Like your pigs learn so much from going to those jackpot shows. They learn how to trailer. They learn how to to feed. You feed differently. Everything's different. And as you get more time in and out of those rings, your animal gets more accustomed to what you ask of it. Those 2 whips, the only thing we're doing, well, not the only thing. A lot of times what we are doing is we're sending too many signals to that pig, and we're confusing that pig, and we're going to tie that pig up because of that. And there again, that's the same thing as yelling, get their head up. Do that at home. Get those kinks worked out at home. Even if you're not ready at the jackpot show, it'll be fine. Get rid of the 2 whips.
I like
So
it.
go ahead,
Ryan.
Dale. No.
I want to, and this maybe is too big picture, but we oftentimes see a lot more change in hogs than we do trend type changes than we do in cattle or goats or sheep because of the 2 litters of year. Sexual maturity comes quicker. We can make more change. It's physically easier from a mechanical state portion from a mechanical situation to do that because of all of those given factors. So we used to see a lot of those swings, and I want to go back, and Ryan is not going to like this. Kate will accept it. Ryan will not admit this, but he could remember 20 years ago and exactly what kind of steer was being used, maybe even one that he was associated with or shown or whatever it may be. Or Cade can think back about that pig or that market hog or that Monadale show weather or whatever it may have been. And when we get to a big show, and especially if it's one of ours that we've had success with, we can go back to all those people that had champions, let's say approximately 20 years ago. And if we think about it, anytime in the moment, and I can go back all the way into the 90s and remember this way too clearly, I keep thinking, wow, we've made these show animals pretty darn good. I think that we're going to stay about right here for 10, 20 more years. We don't need to change anymore because we're kind of there. But guess what? We look back at those older pictures every single time, no matter how good we thought they were. What's our impression of them now?
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, that's about it. But am I right? At the moment, did you not believe that was a good one, or that's where the trend is kind of finally settled where we think it's going to stay, and it doesn't, it just won't.
Now, the only thing, and I agree with you 100%, especially when you look back and you have a stronger mental picture of that animal than the actual physical picture. Because I've actually went and looked back at animals that I, admired very much at one point and went, oh my goodness.
Or even 5 years, it's more of a difference than what I realize.
It's more shocking than you would think.
Yes.
But the one difference today than then, Dale, with our loss of grip in following the commercial trend, the commercial emphasis no longer dictates how we're going to judge our animals.
In other words, the lean value system coming into play to hogs, or a certain weight in steers not being acceptable because they don't hang, they'll drag the floor in the coop. You're right. Those things are pulled out. So it will lessen.
So I envision the pigs kind of going towards somewhat similar of the heifers. Quality is always going to be there. They'll play with the extremes and swing it left and right and back and forth, whether that's bone, whether that's hair, whether that's muscle, and all these things. But I think we will balance them out. We will find an acceptable size because of the age that we can get these hogs to. We can take a small hog and eventually get it big enough and make it look like a monster, even though that pig is not genetically superior. It's just maturity wise finally got to where it can get to.
Basically, a midget that doesn't have enough frame or grow eventually is going to proportion out.
And to me, and I know we're not talking about this, but that's the genetic part of the problem of the swine industry, is we advertise and sell these boars that are so stinking old that we've manipulated the bad out of them and we've hid the bad, and we can't see what we need to protect in making our breeding decisions because they look so massively heavy boned and man, that one's wide. But what was that pig like at its show weight when we're going to show its offspring? What did it look like then? Because that's what it's going to be more apt to generate versus what it looks like as a 18-month-old boar that's finally getting a photo.
Excellent. I agree completely.
So and I mean, again, we could have multiple podcasts about this, but I do want to bring this trend up because I think it's something that's real current in hogs or whatever. And I want Cade to either go off or say great or give me whatever he wants. But so I think the most controversial thing right now is the painting, the dyeing, the gluing of pigs. And before you, because again, you're in the trenches, you raise them, you show them. Hogs are my favorite thing to judge. I do it a lot, and I love it. Absolutely, would rather judge hogs than anything else. But it kind of my opinion on this, and I want yours. But my deal is, it's just like everything else. I tell people all the time in cattle shows in the summer, if you know how to twine a steer and can make it look as natural as possible, and it's not going to fall off and not look like a train wreck, then when that calf comes in, just like everything else, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Somebody pretty good is on this thing. So maybe might give this thing some consideration. If you can paint and dye and glue and clip that pig, then you are going to stand out. No doubt. But
early on, you'll be cussed early on because of it.
Oh, I'm telling you, I used one to win huge jackpot show. I knew he was painted, but he was the only reason I knew is I was up on him. You know, I'm like,
did you handle him, Ryan? I'm sorry, did you handle him?
No, I did not. It would have ruined my shirt, Kate, if I would have got the paint on me, and then my shirts are expensive. Dale knows, he saw them in Vegas. But anyway, so like they didn't say anything to me, but that family, the next show I saw him at was probably 6 months more later. They're like, do you know how bad we got cussed after you used us to win that show? He says, now they've got a rule in that series that you can't paint pigs. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But again, if you can do it and do it well, then yeah, it puts you in an elite group. I think that may be 10% of the people, or at least of the ones I see. If you can't do it, you look like an idiot. If you can't do it well, don't do it all, because you look like an idiot.
That was one of the things that I had to learn was to dye pigs, because if your barn is not set up for a lot of natural light, and you don't want to run a tanning light over every pin that you have, you've got to come up with something. And the dyeing, when it's done properly, is beautiful. It could change a pig's placing dramatically, because it takes a pig that's old and stale skinned. Even though the skin is soft, it's still, Dale, when that black pig starts to turn kind of a lighter color, especially starts to the seam of through that seam of her ham or his ham, and it'll kind of fan out.
No, it's horrendous to look at.
Yeah, when you could change that to jet black in a matter of an hour, and don't do it at the show. Good Lord, don't do it. But it makes a huge difference when done right. It's no different. Now, I don't think the spray paint is as good, because it's too hard to match everywhere on that animal's body. It's too, you're not going to get that color the same, so it's going to look off. You're going to look like you did something different. And then that goes back to the whole art of fitting. I think it needs to look like you didn't touch the animal.
Right.
It just looks that amazing. And that's how I go at it. The spray paint does not do that for me. The dye does that for me. I am okay with dyeing. And yes, most of these shows will have a no paint, no dye rule. So how are you going to know if I dyed that pig?
You can't.
You're going to know if I painted it.
Right. You can tell paint, because that's their show. But the dyeing, there's that rule. See, Dale and I's biggest fight ever, Cade, is that man does not read rule books at all. He does not. He does not read rule books.
No,
he does not.
A strong supporter following whatever is in place.
Yeah, but you don't read them, because I tell you what the rules are. You're like, that's not in there. And then I go look at page 53. All this man can say whatever. He didn't read rule books. Do you know that there's a dyeing rule in almost every rule book of any whatever? You cannot tell me if a pig, a sheep, a calf, whatever was dyed if it wasn't done at the show. So that is a worthless rule. Worthless.
I agree with that one.
Yep. But I'll tell you why they have it.
Do not dye your animal at the show. Can we do that? Can we put that one in there?
Yep. That and that is fine. The painting thing is crazy. Now, the pulling of the hair on the pigs, the ones that I've seen that have done it early on looked very unnatural because they would pull it up, glue it, and then that hair, instead of going back with the pig's body like it naturally wants to, is now going against the grain, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. So that part I didn't like. If there was a way to figure out how to fluff the hair up and glue it to make it look puffier, because I don't have the right word.
More going with the natural flow.
Yeah, instead of going against the natural lay of the hair, I think that would be a lot better. I know we're gluing, we are gluing a lot of legs. There again, if you do it and then clip on it to make it look like something I did on purpose, instead of a chain spike on the back of this pig's leg now that doesn't move, I don't like that part of it. Now, Ryan, I'll give you this quick tidbit. Dale was very, very kind to me, and he would let me tail him around show rings. Now, I was very young, and I didn't obviously do anything but get to walk around the ring a lot. I had never been so scared in my whole life when Dale walked up and pulled twine off of a calf in the middle of a ring, and I was out there.
It wasn't done well.
I thought I was going to get hung alive. I was like, I'm dead. They're going to kill me.
Oh, yeah. No, and again, I mean, I think that principle goes for everything, just like we're saying. But I also see the other side that 80% of them just see somebody doing like, oh, that looks cool, we'll do it too. Yep. Okay, try it at home first. Why don't we practice at home? And then when we get good at it, maybe, or go to that person that you saw that did a great job of showing and say, hey, can you give me some instruction on this, whatever? Just don't, like, because you see somebody do it, think that, oh, I can do this too. Because while we do these things, and just like I think Kade and Dale both say, and I agree, you do these things to get your animal presented as high as you can, but yet the ones that are fit the most, it's still done to make them look as natural as possible. That's going to get you points, and that's going to score big.
Yep.
I think the other thing is, when you look dumb, it hurts you worse. When you do stuff like, I mean, you may have a pig that maybe that pig should stand second through fourth, depending who the judge is. You go out there and it's a hot mess and there's paint all over and all. It's not going to happen for you. It's just not.
You kind of, and it goes back to my Dick Nash he's an old judge who is mean and very forward with everything he thought came out on the microphone. And I judged a big county fair in Indiana, and he watched and he called me, and I'll never forget it. Don't ever use a pig with a problem, then you don't have to defend it. And that's the same thing with a bad pit job. If you have a major problem, I don't have to tell everybody, well, the pig was really good. I know they painted its belt white or black and it looks stupid, or they clipped it bald, or they put shoes on it that don't work, and this or that. No, just use the pigs without problems.
That makes perfect sense. Well,
the other one other thing, because I know Dale's going to ask anyway, but we're going to get to question and answer and all this other stuff. But like, I know, because he said this at the beginning, I think, to wrap this up. What do you see as the biggest trend a year from now? Isn't that probably a good way to wrap this up, Dale?
Absolutely.
It'll still be hair. To me, it'll be fitting hair. You will see, in my opinion, in the pig barns, your show barns will start carrying blowers. They will start training hair, and working hair that way.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely spot on.
I agree with that, and I'm not opposed to any of that. I think that more time in the barn is good, and I think they'll get really good at it, and it'll look cool. But Kade, I forgot to give you the memo. I brought you on here for a purpose. You were supposed to tell us that all the hogs are going to get better in their skeleton, sounder, move with.
This is why you don't need to judge hog shows, Dale. This sums it up.
I thought
right
you
there.
were going to tell me that.
I wish that would happen, but at the end of the day, and I was very bad at this early on in my judging career, I would single trait select for a positive trait and take that to an extreme where I would beat a pig that didn't have that one trait I was looking for, but might be better in several others. And I would beat it because I was single trait selecting for one positive attribute. And you have to find a moderation. I'm not saying use crippled pigs. I won't do it. I'll never stand behind a crippled one. But as you place these hogs, and there's one that has all the boxes checked, but is not sound enough, it does not need to go dead ass last. It needs to go where it needs to fit in quality wise still at the end of the day.
I just am still amazed with what I'm gonna throw our good buddy Eric Fugit under the bus. So he has a couple. It's okay. He doesn't mind. So he shows me a video of a landrace boar he was going to put maybe in the draft or some pig sale. And he was real proud of this. We're at a skeleton banquet, and he shows me the video, and he knew better than to show me the video. And Fugit is all about a great big old wampum ass, a big top, and the last thing he would ever look at would be movement. And his wife, on the other hand, wants some sound and good looking and all these things. So he shows me this crippled landrace boar on a video, and I tell him, and I'm sure he was not happy that pig is too crippled to sell to anybody, but he comes back and explains that most people are going to consider that level of movement acceptable. And my bar of where acceptable is versus crippled obviously is way out of whack in the hog world. Okay. It just is. I think we've accepted crippled front legs. We've just, and I get it. When you're in the trenches and you're around it that much, it becomes the norm.
The part, Dale, I'm going to tell you, you're miss. Ryan, you're going to like this. So fasten your seatbelt on this one. I've seen the video, Dale. I've got to analyze that pig. And it's just like I honestly was just talking about single trait selecting for a positive or a negative. Break that boar down and what other positive attributes that pig has to generate to his breed, where his flaw can be manipulated.
The movement issues. And see, to me, I didn't even, and it was just, I didn't even look at the rest of it because he couldn't.
That's what I knew you didn't.
My assumption is there's got to be others out there that are good in all those other areas and can still move, but maybe they don't exist.
Dale, so that pig as a landrace boar was stout legged, big topped, big hipped as a landrace.
I would agree with that. The little
so,
that I looked at.
The majority of the true land races out there are fine boned, skinny assed, and just.
Well, that just means if you put a little more Chester in it.
Well, somebody did. Somebody did.
Yes, this is simple. This is very simple.
I don't disagree, but there's still a pedigree that rides with that pig.
Okay.
And so that's why that pig has value. And it goes back to the very opening statement. If I'm a mother of a show family that has a landrace female that needs to be bred, what do I need to breed that thing to? Something with a big butt and big bones. That's what they see. That's what they buy. That's what makes them money.
I would like it to change.
I would too, but you're not going to get it. Not that way.
Again, Dale does not need to judge pig shows. Not
unless you want to make them much sound.
And it has nothing to do with your accuracy or seeing them or anything like that. You will go insane, and everyone at the show will go insane. So it's just not a good idea.
I agree.
It's just not. But so I guess that was just Kate is literally my favorite guest. I don't care what anybody says. But moving on to question and answer, I want to tell everybody that, to my detriment, as much as I dislike this segment, I have secured a sponsor for question and answer. And so it is here to stay forever. And the BTRJLA is going to get money from it. So I'm going to have a more positive attitude. And I want to thank Basic Animal Health for becoming the question and answer sponsor for this podcast. This is brand new. It's the Leonard family that also has Leonard Truck and Trailers, but Basic Animal Health is going to have a lot of products. Brand new company coming out, but they have agreed to be the question and answer sponsor. They're also going to be a corporate sponsor, a Top 10 jacket sponsor, and a regional sponsor for BTRJLA as well. big shout out to the Leonard family and Basic Animal Health for becoming the question and answer sponsor. So Dale, by all means, get after it.
Now that we that you're going to be, I could have dug much deeper for questions to rile you up. But before I do that, Clint, Leonard, and his family, they have been unbelievably generous to the BTRJLA, and it is truly appreciated because they have given a lot of money and they've given a lot of time, and now they just continue to give, and we appreciate it very much. So if you're searching for a trailer, you please at least give them a look, because they're darn sure putting a lot back into this industry, and it is appreciated. With that, so I did take 5 minutes to search rather than the last 3 questions, Ryan, for question and answer, because we had Kate on here.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we'd try to tie them into either hogs or trends or something. And I don't know if they do, but they at least go that direction. The first one comes from Jonathan. And I think he used to be a very close friend, admirer of yours, Ryan, but I believe we might have let him down last week.
I've known a lot of Johns.
I'm sure you have known way too many. We don't even need to go. Let's leave that alone. I absolutely love the podcast. And between the two of you, at least one is dead on each week. I'm assuming he's talking about me, Ryan.
Of course he is. Yeah.
However, I was disappointed when I listened to last week's episode on avoiding the firing squad. I thought that episode went okay, Ryan.
It was one of my favorites, but anyway, that's fine.
Okay. I fully expected you guys to bring up judges that on occasion or when we run into that occasional judge, it takes way too much time to sort something simple, and how that is received by the masses. Please give your input. So he does not like somebody taking forever, that when it's an easy decision, just do it. And the show,
Jonathan,
I've got my hand in the air. Just somebody call.
Cade, get after it, and then I'll knock you up. Because Dale does not get to talk about this because Dale is slow. I don't care what anybody says. Dale is slow. But anyway, Cade, go ahead.
And I don't care if you're slow to a degree, but there's a point of being slow that's obnoxious. And what it does for you as the judge is it puts so much uncertainty in the crowd that it's all of a sudden you're going to lose all clout with your crowd.
Any credibility at all.
Yes, because you have it, and it's whether you show it or not, but you're given off the impression that you don't know what you're doing, and you have a lot of fear and second guessing.
Yep.
And the more you take time on something that's simple, and especially on a jackpot show, like at a county fair, I think, and I truly believe every animal needs to be spoken about. And you can ask Dale this. I coached him in South Dakota last year. In my opinion, every animal needs to leave on a positive note. I don't care if it's that pig has the cutest tail. I don't care if that lamb is the best clip job. That's what they remember. The last thing you said. And if we go about beating up every animal that leaves the ring because it's too bow-legged, it's too fat, it's just not good enough, that's what they remember. And then they don't want to come back. But if you take that same pig and go, man, he's not thick enough, he's not sound enough, but man, I love the color pattern of this one, and this young lady looks like she's having a great time with it. They go out with a smile instead of being down and out that they've been in last. And you don't look like you're insecure in your placings. And when you take that long time, you look insecure, and then that's the feel of the barn. And I don't care if you don't know. If you don't know what you're judging, you should not have accepted it, because there's more on the line than just your ability. There's people that pour a lot of time and effort into these species to get somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, that just thinks it's going to be cool to take a jackpot show or a judge. Like, I want to try it. You don't know how that affects everybody else that's there. If you don't have the right to judge it, if you're not qualified, just say no. Don't do it because you think it's going to be cool or you have a point to prove. Do it because you are qualified to do it. And yes, we all have to start somewhere and we all have to learn. And that's where I think, Ryan, people like you, and these people that have influence, if we could ever talk to these judging classes and tell them, hey, there's a right and wrong way to do things in the ring. There is a way to manage your ring and a way to manage the crowd and a way to manage your microphone. The judging program is by far and away one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me.
Same.
I could tell you every show I go to, I can dang near nail it how long that they've been off of a team. Because when they first come out, it sounds exactly like a set of reasons that just has more animals in that class. As you progressively go down the class, each animal has more negatives than positives, and the last animal rarely ever has a positive. And it's very negative for the people around ringside.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It could be a simple, like I will be very short on my negatives. I will say the worst thing about your pig as we get down there, like, hey, you're a little bit too much outside yourself, but man, you have a big old hip and you're really big top, and I love that about your pig. I got my point across that you're not good enough on your rear leg set, but I told you how great your muscle was.
Mhm.
And they don't go back miserable.
No.
I don't get you in my butt.
And I agree with everything that Kate's saying there, and especially about what you say on the mic. There's got to be something positive for everybody. I don't care if there's 20 in a class. There's got to be there is something positive about every animal. You may have to work to find it, but there is something positive about every animal. And just like you said, whether it's a color pattern or a big hip, even though they're crippled, all those things. But on the time deal, so just yesterday, I got done judging, and this lady comes up. She was nice. This was not her being mean. She said, I just don't understand how you judge them that fast. And I just joke because I get this a lot. And I said, well, I've been called everything in the dictionary but slow and indecisive. And that is true. But my thing is, and I think Kate and Dale will agree with this, is it is an opinion. It is your opinion. That is all it is.
Mhm.
If you do not know what you want and what your opinion and what your priorities and what you love and what you loathe about livestock before you step in that ring, you sure as hell ain't going to figure it out when you're in there.
Nope.
It will not happen.
And the thing, and yes, 100%, Ryan. And the funny thing is, so when people say that to me, I'm like, man, you're fast. How do you even see him? And I'll tell the person, like, the scarier thing is I stalled 3 minutes before I did it because I figured somebody of these guys need a couple laps around the ring anyway. And that's the truth. I mean, I usually have that thing sorted pretty close real fast, but I don't want to cheat anybody out of, I hated it in the county fair when that same kid would come in with that bad pig and he wouldn't make a 3-step stint and they'd put him in last. And then he would stand in that last pin all by himself for 5 minutes waiting for somebody else to get pinned. I never pin somebody by themselves. And I at least let people make a quick lap around the ring. And then I'll go.
But I think there's one thing I want to inject here, and you guys have both kind of hit on it, but I want to hit even more direct. When and Ryan, you've said this before and talked about it. It's your opinion. There is no question. If you step in that ring, you have an opinion between the two animals. If you're taking that much time or extra time, we're going to say, it's not because you're trying to decide which one you like. You're trying to decide, well, what does the crowd like, or what's so-and-so going to think, or whatever. It's something else. It's not a matter of, do I like this one or that one better? That's your own opinion. And that comes to you very quickly. So
Yes.
why do we stand out there and try to second guess what somebody else likes rather than just doing what we
are
believe?
afraid of the public opinion.
Yeah, that's what the extra time is all about. It's the public opinion.
And that is just where I agree with what you're both saying, and I understand what Kate. I'm with Kate. I never pin one by themselves. I want everybody to think they've got a good luck and all this other stuff. And I get that. And people think that I try to be racehorse fast. It is not that way at all. It is not something that I intentionally set out to do. That is how my mind works. That is how. If I go slow, there's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't
big
care
one.
if you have a pair that you want to break down and analyze. That's
Right.
great. Do it.
I mean, I have walked a pair before, all this other stuff, but if I am going slow, something is wrong with me. Like,
Yeah.
get me out of there. There is an issue that I'm not, I mean, it is bad.
And this is
Because
going to sound bad. And it people might take this the wrong way. But understand what you're placing. Okay. If you're taking a long time on 6th and 7th, that there is no monetary value difference and there is no point system involved, just put them away.
Yep.
Just, just put them away.
I'm
I
going
want
to
you to
tell
be
you,
right. But,
right.
and this is the other thing I tell a lot of kids on the microphone, when you say, and Ryan, you probably say it, so you may say it, and you're going to get mad if you hear me blow up on this. The one thing I hate, I despise, my skin will crawl when you say, and I'm not using you, just in general, when you say either if you want to switch that pair, I won't argue, or if you guys like them the other way, I can understand that. No, you were hired. It's your microphone. You are the official. Speak with confidence.
Oh, yeah.
If you give those people a window for doubt, that's the people that line up, that didn't get the benefit of the doubt, that didn't get the pair switch. They chew your ass because you gave them a damn window.
No, you're exactly right. And I don't ever say that. Now, I will tell you what I do say. If the heaviest muscled one ends up 4th, I say stuff like this. I say, now, if you're here just for muscle,
yep,
the 1 in 4 is
here's
for
your
you.
guy. Yep.
And
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I am.
I mean, that part, yeah, but I agree with you. You're opening yourself up to things like that. But I think the whole thing, and this, I think it's a lot on younger judges or inexperienced judges, regardless of age, all this other stuff. But it is what you and Dale put. So it is not because you don't know what animal you prefer.
Right.
You will never you will never convince me of that. I don't care how intelligent you are or how challenged you are in intelligence level. It is not because you do not know which animal you prefer in the ring. It is 6 other voices in your head that is making you
going on upstairs that's dragging your feet.
That is making you take 23 minutes to decide a breed champion at a jackpot show. And that is where I have a problem. And a big one.
And especially in pigs, and I'll say it in cattle. I don't, obviously not seen as many sheep and goats, so Dale, that'd be you. But what we're doing is we're putting those animals in a very high stress situation. Now, I'm not saying they have to be babied, but at some point, we're asking a lot out of these animals at a young age because of that. And I think that we have to be in that mindset. We have to take care of the livestock as well.
And and this is the longest answer to a question answer ever, and I don't care, but I want to bring up one other point that Kade said, know what you're placing. When you talked about that 6th or 7th, so a lot of these hog shows, Kade, you know as well as I do, they place 5, pin 5, whatever, all this stuff.
Yep.
Do you know what I take the longest doing?
Yep, I do, because I do the same thing.
Finding number 5.
Yep. Making sure
that is making sure that is the longest that I take is finding number 5, or if it's pin 10 or whatever.
Yeah, making sure that your last animal is the one that needs to be highlighted.
Yeah, and that's and then when they come back out, when you turn them back out, it's like 3 seconds later the class is placed. But knowing what you're placing right there, I've never heard anybody say that before. I have thought it myself lots of times, but that's an example. Like in those hog deals, if you're pinning 5. That is where I will take the longest in any single class, is finding number 5, making sure without a shadow of a doubt I've looked at everything else out there, and that's the one I want. Thank you for saying that, because that's very important.
And so these are the things that I wish, Dale. I mean, I wish I mean, obviously hindsight's beautiful, but even like in Joliet, if you would have had somebody come in and sit your judging 101 down and say, hey, look, here's some simple things that I have found that worked. And here's things that will get you in trouble. Because I don't think that's out there. We teach you how to evaluate livestock. We teach you how to give oral reasons. but we don't teach you how to really judge a show.
How to manage that crowd and avoid the
Manage
firing
that
squad, like
ring,
we talked
manage the
about
in and out.
last time, Ryan.
Yep.
No, that's there, and I think part of it is the initial livestock judging, and it still holds on to it, but it's breaking away from there, was much more commercial oriented, and that wasn't the purpose of the judging team to make judges, but rather to make better producers and get them to
Right.
understand what they're doing. But obviously, there's a huge transition going on,
Right.
so I think that's desperately needed. Those some of those kids coming out, you just feel for them because they've not had a chance to judge with somebody else or follow them around, or you just
No, because they accept it, and I am worse than Kate on you do not have to say yes. Nobody has held a gun to your head and told you to say yes. So no, I don't.
The ones that have enough evaluating ability, they just don't know how to mechanically work the ring, and that's something that in theory they could learn.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I do think, and I'm not putting it off on college judging team coaches or whatever, but I do think what Kate is saying, I think, because I have stated this, that while I loved the judging team deal and it taught me worlds that I would have never learned, I don't think it necessarily trains you how to judge a show.
No.
I do think that there is something that needs to be said on, you know what? Maybe we'll take a class or take an hour or whatever. If this is truly what when you're done, either at the junior college level or senior, this is what you want to do. If you now want to go out and sort shows, hey, and every
This is the
single
reality of what happens.
every single coach could do that with their kids, and it would help tremendously.
Because I see so much fear, like deer in headlights, when they get the class that is not perfect, right? Like there's not a great one at the top, there's not a terrible one at the bottom.
And those are more classes than not.
That's what you see.
Yeah.
Like and they get so scared because they don't, just like that class winner, maybe this, and this, but is bad here. And they throw that, it's hard for them to figure out where they put their priorities. And yeah, I had the advantage of Dale taking me to a lot of shows. I did. And he put me in the ring. And I try to do that as often as I can. When I judge a smaller show, I will usually find somebody to go with me and stand out there with me. And, I got to do it with Phoenix this year, and I absolutely loved it. And it's not as much for me as it is to show somebody else what it's like to be out there in that situation. And here's how I handle it. And here's what I do. In your ring, you can do whatever you want, but this will get you out of it here.
Excellent. We're going on to that was the longest one in history, by the way.
Shut up. Move on.
That's because we have a sponsor now, so we have to give it a little more time. Sarah gives us a question. I guess we've already addressed this one a little bit today. Thank you so much for weekly entertainment and education. I have a question regarding fitting legs on show pigs. How do we do this, and where do I learn?
Well, we already addressed that.
Where do I learn?
So I don't know where you're going to learn, Sarah, to do your leg hair great, but I meant to say this when we were talking about the dying situation. I went to a couple shows and I saw a group of pigs that I thought were the best presented there for like 3 weeks in a row. And I found that kid that was a part of that, and I had him come show me. I had him come to the farm, and I had him do a couple of ours, and then I did one as well in front of him to help me understand what he did, how he did it, and what was going through his mind as he did it. And then since then, I've played with it and made it my own style. But that's how I went about dyeing the animals. That's how I learned. So, Sarah, I guess if you see somebody that has good leg hair that you think has done a good job, don't be afraid to ask them. And also, don't be afraid to try it in your barn like on a Monday or Tuesday when, the show's that weekend. Try pulling up your leg hair and gluing it and see what it looks like. Get them out and walk them. And one of the common mistakes people will do with that is they'll glue up all their hair and, and then they'll run them straight to the wash rack and drench them, soak them wet. And you could see that adhesive starting to run off in a different color. So know what you're doing. And that all is experience at home, figuring it out.
I think that's a great point. And I just want to bring, what I've said this on the podcast. Go up, talk to somebody, ask somebody, just like Kade had somebody come to their barn, whatever. Another thing is, everybody's busy at a show, and I get that, but I can't tell you, and it didn't matter if it was when I was showing or when we had the show team and whatever. I can't tell you the number of people that would just stand by our shoots and watch the fitters and everybody get our calves ready for a show, whether it was at a jackpot or a major, whatever. And we never complained. There was nothing wrong with it. We knew why they were standing there watching. They're trying to learn something.
Yep.
And so I'm telling you, I mean, we'd have them 2-3 deep, and nobody cared because they weren't on top of us. They weren't preventing us from doing what we need to do. But if you have time, Sarah, and you're at the next show and you see somebody pulling it, just go watch.
Yep.
You can learn more by watching and asking questions to the people that are in the know than you can anywhere else.
And 99% of the time, you are going to run into somebody that is genuinely nice and that will give you advice. Now, they may not give you the whole story.
They're never going to tell you everything.
Yeah,
but they're going to tell you a lot more than you know.
Yeah. But if they can give you the keys to start it, you have to take it from there.
That's right.
But most of the people will be kind enough to tell you what they do.
Yep.
At least get you in the right direction.
Yeah. Nobody's going to give away the kitchen sink and tell you all their secrets, but they will let you in on a lot more than what you knew before you went up to them.
Yep. Except for Dale. I don't think Dale would tell you.
I don't think Dale has any secrets.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think
he's like Victoria. All his secrets are out there already.
They're there, all in a protocol. We email it out. It's all there. Here's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. The third question comes from Joe. And this one's, again, I think because I pulled from this, not knowing exactly what we're going to talk about. We've covered a little bit, but I am confused. I have attended 2 jackpot swine shows this season, and there were 2 totally different type of hogs being used. What direction do I go? Thank you for all the great information each week.
You're never going to be able to answer that
age-long problem forever.
Right. It doesn't, regardless what species, because just like we said earlier, in that everybody's got a different opinion. And so the biggest thing, yeah, I mean,
that's what keeps you going, to be honest. Like, I don't want to go if the same damn 2 pigs are going to whip me every weekend. Like, I'll quit going.
Well, and it's literally like talking about this. I mean, the only advice I have for this dude is, if you have one show that's a goal, whether it's Kansas City or your county fair or the state fair, and you know who's doing it, and you can either change the direction of your feeding program or whatever, all these things, tweak an animal to get it more to that person's type, or select one for that person's type. That's it. Because the myth that there is one animal that can win every show, I talked about this, is bullshit. Every show there's 5, 6 or more that can.
I don't know if I've ever seen an animal go to 5 or 6 shows, maybe a few more than that, and has ever won every show they've been at.
Yeah, that myth is just that. It's a myth, because they're so good, and it's so close, and it's so competitive. There's half a dozen at every show that whoever depending out there can use. And so my advice to you, dude, is research whatever your end goal judge is.
Yes.
Research that person, and whether it's feeding or buying or selecting, whatever, do that, because you're never gonna get this deal. Oh, the one different one won in ring A. I'm telling you, I judged a show yesterday, and I don't know what happened in the other ring, but I know just talking to people that it was way different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But that's the question he's asking. You're never going to get past that.
No. And the other thing I think you brought up, you touched on it a little bit. The very first thing that I ask anybody that wants me to buy a pig for them is, what show is your goal at? I'm not going to get you a pig that's going to win from April to August. That's not how it works. Not
going to happen.
You can win early, and that's great. But likelihood of that pig winning late does not happen. And you can win late and get your butt whipped early. Okay. There are pigs that can have their bright spots in the moment in between, but you will have to tell me your show, your goal, and that show's end date before I help you find that.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure enough people, and I deal with this daily and send out the same text and ask the same questions. And it's really appreciated by those clients that you're digging just a little deeper, because that is something that is not maybe being done enough. And just like Joe's question, you have to accept it's going to be different, and you're not always going to get the name of that judge, even though Ryan and I preach all the time. Let's release that judge's name as soon as we have it, and we qualify it by, oh, it's got to be a secret, so it's not political. All those people that they're going to use from a political standpoint are going to know it anyway. So there is no justification of not releasing it. If we do release that name in time to make management changes, all good, but it's going to take some research to do that. So excellent answers.
I say on that, yeah, I was going to say at the big shows, I'm okay with. I'll be honest with you, and this is from my own personal standpoint with my kids showing. At these weekend jackpot shows, I literally don't care, because I take a jackpot show as much for the learning for my kids and the pigs. Now I want to do good, and I do not want to be embarrassed, and I do not want to look bad doing it. But at the end of the day, it helps so much to get those animals and kids out. If I know who's judging it and I have a preconceived notion, I might not go. And that's not fair to my kids or my pigs at a jackpot show. And that's why I don't care I never ask who's judging. I won't find out until they call the first class of showmanship.
And
So Ryan, if I
because
show up, you
realize the importance of getting those pigs out. You're doing it for almost another purpose.
And with that being said, it is night and day. If you have we are crazy enough to show a Poland right now, and that gilt before our first show was completely nuts. Since we've been home from that first show, she is a driving machine and a pet. And we didn't do anything to her. We just took her through the motions. And it makes all the difference in the world. Every time your kid can get into that show ring, Lexi has went from, looking at the crowd and waving to people when she first started, and she's becoming an animal when she shows now, and in a good way. And I've loved it, but it's only because of the repetition. It's not because we work at it harder at home. Yeah, we work our tails off, but you can't emulate that show ring, that nervousness, those butterflies, that other judge. You can't emulate that at home. You could try, but you're not gonna. There's no way you can get your kids that nervous, that feeling, that much anticipation in your own yard.
100% dead on.
Excellent. Well, guys, Kade, especially coming on and being willing to come on a second time, we greatly appreciate you jumping in. We look forward, Ryan and I are going to we have 3 more on goats, sheep, and cattle that we'll be bringing guests in to assist in telling us about the trends and discussing those trends. Kade, it was enjoyable to have you on today. And to those listeners out there, until next week, be safe.
Thanks, guys.
Y'all come back now, you hear?